and deciding on looking at what's filed would decide how best to set the trials. Anything else we should address today from the state?
Your Honor, I guess I just want to make sure that, so we don't come back and do it again later, that what we're saying today is that Ms. Geiser is entering a plea of not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect, but that Ms. Wire is not entering such a plea. Since we haven't appointed experts, I'm assuming they're not entering that plea. I don't want to come back and say, oh, yeah, we are entering that plea, now let's get some experts, and then things come to a crawl again.
Well, I haven't heard any.
And I would just ask that the court inquires.
All right. Is there any intent or thought that you'd enter change pleas for Ms. Wire?
At this time, we are not doing that, Your Honor. However,
The issue is open.
Still discussing the merits of that issue.
All right. Well, at this point, we're proceeding as we have with that motion set for then Miss Geiser only. Now let's pick. I think let's look at 45 days out. How does that come out? Puts us at the beginning of October. Let's say I have the report due by September 30th. And then I'll address it on the October 13th. So we should allow about 2 hours for that hearing on the 13th.
Judge, if I may?
Yes.
My only request on the, just going back to this NGI issue, I don't know this doctor. He's obviously had no involvement in this case. I would propose that the court, since Dr. Collins is being rejected, I would propose that the court consider Dr. Lundbaum, because she is one of the two doctors at the Wisconsin Forensic Unit at Behavioral Consultants who has experience with children, and she has contact with Morgan, so she's going to be able to provide a comprehensive overview of Ms. Geiser's functioning shortly after her arrest and the competency-related issues. I think it's important that we have somebody in this case who had meaningful contact with her in those days after the arrest, as opposed to now when Ms. Geiser is now treated, she's being medicated, she's in a much different situation than she was. I think it's going to be difficult for any doctor to come in now and really appreciate how she was functioning at that time. And we have a number of doctors, including Collins, but also Dr. Lundbaum, who had a much lesser role in this case. She hasn't testified at the same quantity of hearings, and she's been lesser utilized. But she has that experience with Ms. Geiser at the time after the event. I think that, and if Your Honor wouldn't do it, I would ask that if you won't do it in lieu of Mr. Burney or Dr. Burney, I would ask that the court use its discretion under the statute to appoint both doctors. So at a minimum, we have somebody doing the evaluation who has experience and background working with Ms. Geiser. It's imperative to this type of defense.
Judge, what strikes the state as being interesting here is that we asked for this exam way back because we said just what Mr. Cotton is saying now. And Mr. Cotton objected to that, saying, no, we don't know if we're going to raise this yet. And if we don't, we can always have doctors later review reports and whatnot. For him to now say, well, no, they really can't do that, is just speaking out of both sides of his mouth, Judge. We think who you've appointed is appropriate.
No, my argument back then was that there already are doctors who are in place evaluating Ms. Geiser, and if the court were to have done that, we would have made the same request then that we're making now. The doctors who have a relationship with her, none of whom have done an NGI evaluation, should be the ones to reach those opinions. And if the state believed so strongly back then that it was so imperative to have somebody see Ms. Geiser immediately, we have that, 2 of them.
Well, I will appoint, Dr. Brooke Lundbone did testify previously. However, did she testify as to Ms. Wire, or did she testify as to Ms. Geiser? All right. I'll appoint as a second psychologist Dr. Brooke Lundbone. Now, I note on the list that I'm looking at, and I have no reason to know what her background is with regard to children, other than she testified in this case as to competency, that she's not listed as being able to do an NGI plea for children, but I'll appoint her as a second one.
Okay.
So ordered, same deadline set.
Thank you.
Now, with that, then, I'll order that both parties then be returned to their places of residence at the end of this hearing, unless there's a request that they be held for conferences with their attorneys, and that I'll order that they be produced for the next court hearing as well, so ordered.
And Judge, we would like at least an hour to meet with our client after the hearing today.
We'll need a few minutes from our perspective also, Judge.
All right, well, I'll permit each of you to meet with your respective clients for no more than an hour after the conclusion of the hearing at locations that have been designated by the Sheriff's Department, which can be juvenile, if juvenile is available. With that, anything else from the state?
No.
Anything else from Ms. Geiser?
No, thank you, Judge.
Anything else from Ms. Wire?
Not at this time, sir.
No.
All right, very good. The court will be in recess. Thank you.